Well, obviously, the aftermath of the earthquake and the way in which the government has handled that has been a major problem for President Erdogan and his Justice and Development Party. But beyond that, Turkey has been facing stiff economic headwinds for a number of years now. The government is rife with corruption. And Erdogan has, after 20 years, really outstayed his welcome. He is sort of this kind of personality that hangs over Turkish politics and society in a way that people are no longer comfortable with. So he is uniquely vulnerable going into May. That doesn't mean he's going to lose. He still has a vast reservoir of support. But this is the best chance for the opposition that they've had in 2 decades.
Yeah, and ironically, 2 decades ago, the AK party came to power after the then prime minister was criticized for failing to mobilize quickly enough after another earthquake.
That's right. These are echoes of the 1999 Izmit earthquake, in which the government couldn't provide relief fast enough. The economy was reeling, and the Justice and Development Party emerged 2 years later and swept into power in 2002 and have been there ever since. So once again, the opposition seeks to capitalize on a natural disaster and economic mismanagement to overturn the government.
I'm wondering, when we've looked at Recep Tayyip Erdogan over these past 2 decades, we've seen him take Turkey from a secular state, from a sort of moderate state, to an increasingly Islamist state where certain liberties are reined in. Do you think May's election will really be free and fair?
Well, it's a big question. I think what President Erdogan and his party are trying to do is to clear the field so that the actual voting is free and fair, but put pressure on certain opposition parties, arrest certain opposition leaders, make it more difficult for them to contest the election so that he can squeak by in what they could credibly claim was free and fair. Of course, on the day of, if there's a perception that President Erdogan is losing, the Justice and Development Party is not above rigging the ballot box. Then there's the question of, if he loses, will he leave? We've had President Trump try to remain in power, Jair Bolsonaro in Brazil, and then President Erdogan seems to have more resources at his disposal than either Trump or Bolsonaro to try to remain in power despite an electoral defeat.
Yeah, and when we look at the opposition in Turkey, just how united are they?
Well, they are united in their hatred for President Erdogan. And the sense is that they've come together only because they dislike Erdogan. They don't really agree on much. And if Erdogan wins, it strikes me that much of the vote will be against Erdogan rather than for his competitor, Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu.
One more question. We're running out of time. If the opposition does win, how could Turkey change course? So we've seen it have an outsized presence geopolitically recently, but there's also been Erdogan's purging of the courts, of the media, the armed forces. What can be undone?
Well, it's going to be very difficult to undo these things. I think there's a lot of hope in Turkey that there'll be a snapback to some mythical, democratic, prosperous moment in Turkish history. I think that's going to be very difficult after 20 years of the Justice and Development Party and President Erdogan.
Stephen, thank you very much for your time. Stephen Cook speaking